Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Denisha Keating Show. I am super excited to have Lauren and Linda with me. We're going to be talking about a particular topic around foster care today. One of the things that we do with the kitchen table conversation is that we come into the conversation as friends, asking questions to understand where the other person is coming from or to understand what's going on. We don't talk over each other, we don't yell, we don't scream, but we actually come in with questions. And that's kind of something that happens naturally as someone starts to share their story. And I want to talk about a particular thing called aging out of the system and the supports that we need. And we're going to invite you to be that fly on the wall who listens to how we navigate this conversation that might be really hard to have when you're hearing someone go through something for the first time. So I'm going to have Lauren and Linda both introduce themselves, and then we're just going to jump into the conversation and talk about aging out.
Hey, my name is Lauren Clark, and I'm one of the leaders of Tamara's Community, which is a nonprofit for young adults aging out of foster care. We're based here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hi, my name is Linda. I am a former foster youth.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about aging out. So we do know that aging out is different across every state. In your guys' state, what is the age out and what does that process look like?
So 18 is the official age out age, and so they have programs for it's like the 18 to 21 program, and that's kind of like the transition stage where the state will provide resources for youth. Yeah, do you want to speak on that, Linda?
Oh, I'm good.
You're like pretty simple.
Yeah, she's got
So
it covered.
yeah, I feel that. I'm like, that's pretty straightforward. Do you know if every single former foster youth qualifies for it, or if someone's under maybe a guardianship or a kinship, could they also qualify for this age out program that's existing?
Go for it.
It just really depends on the cases, case by case.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, like I've seen a lot of cases fall through.
Yeah. And that's the same with California. It was when I aged out, it was interesting to find out that like 3, 4 years later, they were like, oh, you have to actually have like a court order for you to be able to get these services. And so it was like, oh, it's so simple to go get this court order. And then you find out that it's like a whole thing and it's not. Like so many people fall through the cracks, and a lot of former foster youth don't want to extend because it requires them to still be in contact with the system. So that can be really, really hard. When it comes to like what type, when it comes to the actual program, what does that program look like for you guys?
So one big piece is that you have to, like, if you're, we have one girl who's reunified at 17, but she won't qualify for any of that. So it has to be you're aging out at 18.
Okay.
And then there's a few different resources that you would receive. So like a housing stipend, you could get access to free college, free Medicaid. Yeah, if I'm missing anything.
Some of the not stipulations, but assumptions. I don't know why I said stipulations. Assumptions is that it will cover everything like food and rent and car and all of these other things. So it only really covers a housing stipend. Does that housing stipend cover the entire rent, or is it kind of just everyone gets the same amount?
Yeah, I believe it's about 700 or 800 a month, which in Raleigh, it's pretty tough to
Yeah.
be able to make it with that. Like even to be able to pay rent per month with that amount.
How much would housing be out where you guys are at?
So if you're going to live by yourself, the lowest that you could probably get is probably 1,200, somewhere around there.
Okay, and then it's $700 or $800 for a stipend. Doesn't cover everything, and I'm assuming it's not like a big place. It's going to be like a small apartment for 1,200. Would you say it's a one bedroom, one bathroom, or is it like 2 bedroom, 2 bathrooms that are 1,200?
One bedroom, one bath. Yeah.
That's really small. That's okay though. We'll be fine. It's like how I feel like. So it doesn't like we'll figure it out. So when you're doing the schooling, can you work at the same time?
Hmm.
And what does that look like to Linda? If you are you in doing school and working right now, like what does that look like for you?
So I don't know where to start. So I did get schooling,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to school and I was working part-time. That was one of the stipulations of my foster care thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just it just depends on like what happens, because
Mm-hmm.
like when you age out of foster care, you can get like schooling, like you get money to go to school,
Mm-hmm.
like for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But like most of the people I knew couldn't take advantage of that.
Do you know what stopped them from taking advantage of it?
Well, so not being prepared for what college looks like, so dropping out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just there's a lot of people that drop out of school because
Yeah,
they
it's
have to
hard.
work and go to school.
It's both in your state. So
Mhm.
some other states it's one or the other. But I find that a lot of people try to do both, but the housing is tied to the schooling in some counties. So each county in my
Oh,
state can kind of do it different. So it's like if they want housing, they have to go to college. They can go to community college, but they have to stay in school. And if they don't stay in school, then they don't get the housing. So then they also try to work in addition to that, and it's just a lot. It's hard because it's like part-time job and full-time school, and it's
Mhm.
like no one teaches you how to do that. They're just like, cool, have fun. And you're like, cool. Like this is not fun at all. But it's what would you say for the like from high school to college classes, what's the biggest difference for you in that experience for you?
well, I just want to speak on an experience that I had.
Yeah.
So when I was 20 and about to turn 21, I was sort of like kicked out of the program
Mm.
because apparently I wasn't even supposed to be in there because my parents didn't sign like child support and stuff like that. But like I was in the middle of exams.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So that
Worst
semester,
time to be
that
kicked
the
out.
last semester of my associate's degree, I moved 3 times
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
within 5 to 6 months. And
So yeah,
they didn't have a system in place to move me to a new apartment or anything.
it was
They
just
put it
go.
Yeah,
Ugh.
they put it on the foster parent to like take me in and like make sure that I have everything. And I didn't want them to have to make that choice
Hmm.
to like let me stay at their house, even though like we were kind of like not really close then.
Yeah. Okay.
So then like I tried figuring everything else out
Yeah.
like by myself, but like it's only now that I've been stable enough to be able to love on myself.
Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit because you said that your parents didn't sign something or your foster parents didn't sign child support.
So when I was almost 18, like
Mhm.
17 and a half, I was taken into the hospital because if I didn't, I would have to go back home.
Mm.
And my dad wouldn't sign the paperwork. So what happened was I went into the I don't know what it's called, like individual or therapeutic
Transitional housing. Oh,
therapeutic foster
therapeutic.
care.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my
So
gosh.
they
Okay.
kept telling me like I didn't like when I went to apply for college and stuff, I didn't qualify for any of the college tuition
Hmm.
because
Because
I wasn't in the
it's a
system
different
because of that mistake.
label. That's how it is out here too in California. So if you're not in a foster home and the court orders on the 18th birthday, they can't extend into the program. But then if like parents don't sign the right stuff, foster parent or bio parent, that also can hinder the resources going forward because it's all tied together as a one case. And It's crazy. So you went from the program, so you went from the therapeutic housing to the program, and then they were just like, hey, by the way, you're out with no warning, and then said you can go back to the foster home.
So basically, I was in the foster care home.
Oh, you were in the
And
foster care home. Oh my gosh. But
yeah,
they said they have to figure it out.
yes, they were like, "Can you please keep Linda for now instead of like giving me any solution?"
Mm,
And I was in exams. So I
yeah.
told them that I would move in with my ex, well, my boyfriend at that time.
Mm,
So I
mm,
moved in and like I started my life by myself,
yeah.
like trying to figure everything out with my ex. And just like nothing really worked out for me. Like
Yeah.
I did an internship for like $1,000 as a software
Mm,
developer.
mm-hmm.
And like I was just trying to keep afloat. My foster parents helped me a little with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but it was so hard.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 26. When I
Okay.
was
So this is the last 6 years. I want to hug
yes.
you. I just want to be like, I'm so sorry. So when I aged out in 2007. So I kind of old. But from 18 to 24, I moved 33 different times while trying to navigate college and working at the same time. But there were no support programs available for me either. They a lot of them didn't exist like they do today, but even if they like the ones that exist today, I wouldn't have qualified because my file was listed as family maintenance, meaning family stepped in. It didn't matter if it was mom and dad, it didn't matter if it was sister, it was family stepped in. So they closed the file for foster care, and then they were just like, AK, go figure it out. Like, have fun. Nice to meet you. Never see you again.
Mhm.
33 times from 18 to 24 for the exact same things. Like some people would rent out a room and then they'd be like, oh, I don't want to rent the room out anymore. I would get a roommate. And then it's like somehow I'm the one getting kicked out. I'm on the lease. And they're like bringing friends in. And it's like, oh, well, you can leave. And it's like all of the things that can happen. And people look at us and go, well, you should just be able to be on your feet.
Yes.
What does that feel like when people tell you that after what you have experienced? You're like, the last 6 years, I have been just trying to float. What do you say to someone who comes back in and is like, you should just figure it out? I mean, I
I
swing fists, so like it's fine.
I, I took years to grieve the fact that I didn't get a free college tuition.
Mm, that's hard. And I'm sure a lot of people have also said, like, but Linda, like, you get all of these resources, and you're like, yeah, I was in them and then was kicked out of them. That leaves me a little bit bitter. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, that's not for everybody. Not all of us get these resources. So if someone is in your boat right now, navigating what you've had to navigate, what encouragement would you tell them?
Find community.
Hmm. How do they navigate that? Because they might be afraid to trust people. What would you tell them to start off by doing?
Honestly, I'm not sure
It's
because
okay.
I was really hurt and I
Yeah.
was growing with my Christian faith.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I say community, I mean like, okay, go to church, right?
Yeah.
But
That's a
I
great
don't
start.
really, so with Tamris, I've never seen a program for former foster youth to just come and chill.
Mm.
And how they built the whole system up has been really like safe and secure and loving.
Mm.
So
I
yeah.
love that. So where are you at today compared to like 6 years ago? Like how are you feeling with navigating that? How has that stuff still impacted you today?
So I was recently diagnosed with autism,
Okay.
and like all of the sudden all the behaviors that like I've always had
Mm-hmm.
just started making sense.
Mm, that makes
Did that
sense.
answer your question?
Yeah. It makes it just like you're kind of like, oh, there's a lot of this stuff that went undiagnosed, which made it hard to navigate situations, I'm sure. and
Yeah.
friendships and relationships in conflict. And you're just like, I'm just going to kind of figure it out. But now, with knowing the diagnosis, how has that changed how you approach situations?
I have a really strong friend that
Mm,
advocates for me about my autism consistently.
good. Good. I love that. Is the friend Lauren or someone else?
Oh, Kristen.
Kristen. I was like, shout out to Kristen, because that's a big deal. Is sometimes you can't advocate for yourself, but having someone who's like, I know you enough to help you get what you're looking for. I know the verbiage to use. I know the emotion that needs to go behind it. Because again, I'm like,
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna smack you and walk away, versus others are like, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, this is so hard. But when you're in that one hit after another and one issue after another, it is hard to be like, yeah, let me advocate for myself. And then you add on having something like autism, or mine is dyslexia, and it messes with me sometimes. And I'm like, oh, I can navigate a little bit easier, I think, emotions, just because I've learned those things, but it is harder to navigate when the dyslexia comes in when I'm stressed. So having my husband come in sometimes and he's like, hey, this, you might need to take a break. I'm like, I'm fine. He's like, nah, I think you need to take a break. I'm like, okay. So that's that advocacy piece that is missing. Lauren,
Mhm.
how does the Tamarack community step in for people that are experiencing just a lot of hurdles?
Yeah. So our program in general is definitely focused on community first and foremost. And so we have
Mm-hmm.
weekly meetings where we meet and just like hang out and have dinner together and do different activities or
Yeah.
learn various things together. And then we have volunteers that come and also kind of function as like friends and mentors. And so
Mm.
a lot of it is like just walking with our young people and like helping, whenever a challenge comes up,
Yeah.
kind of helping navigate that.
I love
Um,
that.
and just walking with them throughout the week and then having like that touch point, the consistent touch point is really helpful in like building trust.
I love it. Linda, how does that help you feel different than when you were by yourself 6 years ago, trying to do it all by yourself?
I love it
Mm.
because
I love
one of the leaders spent a whole day with me just pampering me. Like we went shopping for
it.
like 10 hours and food prep.
I need one of those days. I need a day like that where I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I love it. So they just hung out and they food prepped with you and shopped with you.
Yep.
What does that make you feel internally when someone just does that?
Well, I've never had a budget to go shopping
Mm,
on clothes like just for me before. To have someone just like give me their time all
mm,
day just to love on
mm,
me and just to like give me whatever I need. That's what
mm.
Tamarisk is built on.
Yeah.
Because like Tamarisk doesn't give you a list of things like to check off. Like Tamarisk just meets
Mm,
you where you're
mm. Is it overwhelming to get a checklist of all the things you have to do and maintain?
at. Yes.
I honestly like, I love to-do lists if I create them. But when someone else hands me a to-do list, I freak out. Like,
Yeah.
let me build my own. But
Yeah.
it's overwhelming. When it comes to some of the to-do lists that you had to do the before with the other program, what were some of the things that you had to maintain? You said be in school full time and work part time. What were some of the other things you had to do to stay in the program? If you remember. I know I can't remember yesterday, so that's just what happens to me. Do you remember any of the other things that they made you as a requirement, said like, hey, you have to do these things to be eligible for this program?
Um, I'm not sure how to answer that because like the
Okay.
foster care program that I was in,
Hmm.
like just had a few rules.
What were
Like
the rules?
like there was a curfew
Oh.
cleaning the house sometimes, making sure I go to school. Um, and like it wasn't all bad. Like these
Right.
rules are made for foster youth that don't have any boundaries.
But it's hard when you're 20, and I get why, but you're 20 to 26, some of these are individuals are 18 to 21 or 22, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, you have a curfew, you have this, you have that. Was
Oh,
that
this was when I
easy
was
for follow
18 to
when you were
20.
18? Okay, when was it easy? Did you feel like it was easy to follow, or did you feel like some of them were like, "Oh, okay, this is really hard"?
No, it was, like, backbreaking hard. Like, why do you
Mm.
have to clean the bathtub every week? Like, some of it just didn't fundamentally, like, make sense to me.
Yeah. I'm like, "Wait, I don't clean my bathtub once a week." Like, I don't. But okay, so like it wasn't just like a, "Hey, make sure you keep your room clean," or like the outside where everybody else is clean. It's like top bottom, it has to be cleaned really well.
Mhm.
Did they check that every week?
It just makes me feel like, I'm speaking bad about them.
No, it's
Uh
just not a bad thing, just like a understanding where I want to help people understand like that it's not just, "Hey, clean up your room," but it was a lot more than that, and be in school
It
and
was a
work.
lot because, I had these meetings, like, every 2 weeks or 1 week,
Oh,
like, every
wow.
time, and I was working part-time, um,
Yeah.
and I was going to school, and then
Mm,
on top of those, there were just meetings and getting along with the family, like,
yeah.
some of these I just didn't even know how to do.
That's really hard though. And it's again, we're not speaking down, we're just giving an understanding of what the requirements are to be in a program like that. I know someone else who's in one of the programs, and it's not with a foster family, but it's like an all girl home. And the person will come
Mhm,
through, like, there's like kind of like a room person, like a manager that comes in and will like do a checkbox with them to be like, okay, all of these things are done. And it's to help them learn responsibility for when they have their own house. But it is sometimes over the top where it's like it takes one person 5 hours a week just to do the checklist cleaning. And that doesn't include like laundry. It doesn't include going shopping. It doesn't include her 40-hour a week job and then 20 hours of school. Like, so she just felt like if I just got my own apartment, I wouldn't have to have all these checks and balances. And she's like, I can clean my house once a week and it be clean for 2, 3 weeks and not have someone come in and say, like, hey, it's not up to standard. And that's what she kind of felt. It wasn't a bad thing, but she just felt like it was a lot of expectation with a short amount of time each week. So it wasn't done, like you said, like a realistic way where it's like, hey, if it's every other week you clean your bathroom, awesome, it's your bathroom. But it was, she felt overwhelmed because she's like, I'm working a full time job, I'm in school part time, but that really feels like full time. And then I'm doing all these other things, meetings, requirements, and she's like, I just
mhm.
don't feel like I have time to do all of it. So she was sharing that realness, and I thought it wasn't like that, because when you hear that we get an apartment, we're just like, oh, we get to go in an apartment, but they don't, there's expectation of like, here's all the things you have to do to have this. That's a little
Mhm,
bit more than what she realized. And that
mhm.
that was just hard because she, when she tallied how much she was doing with cleaning a week, it actually ended up being like 15 hours. And then, because it was a standard that was above what was expected. So that was where she
Mhm.
felt it was really hard to just maintain everything. So she kind of crashed and burned for a little bit. And she was very honest. She's like, I just feel like that was a lot and it wasn't for me. So she got her own apartment and she's like, peace. And she said, wow, this is a lot easier to live on my own. But then she didn't get the program support of like them helping her with her resume and getting
Mhm.
jobs. And so she had to navigate that on her own. So it's,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people hear like there's all these resources, but they don't understand it comes with a lot. And not everyone's eligible, but it comes with a lot of expectation that can be very overwhelming to all of us. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I don't like when people come in and they're like, you have to do all these things. And I'm like, ugh, like, I don't do that on a normal
I think
basis.
I think one of the hardest things for me as a foster kid, I was given some money, like a decent amount, to go food shopping.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I was in a restaurant. Like I grew up in a restaurant. My parents brought food to me
Okay.
every day, like literally eating every day without preparing it, without doing anything to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm propelled into a world there that there's only like American food grocery stores.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out how to cook, and I'm not sure. So there were days where I was starving and I didn't know how to cook for myself, how to do it.
Mm.
So that was one of the harder parts about being in a foster home.
Yeah, and what to buy and what's healthy and what's not healthy. Because I'm assuming that when you go to the store, you're like, I don't know what to cook and I don't know what's easy. You just grab, and then you're like, okay, this doesn't taste very good.
Yeah.
That has to be really hard. And that I struggled a little bit with that. Like I knew what a store was, but I went for like the stuff that would make me full faster. And so I didn't look at like labels, and like I have inflammation issues. And so there's certain things I can't eat. And I was eating them and
Mhm,
not realizing I was hurting my body more. So then
mhm.
once I figured that out in my 30s, I was like, oh, let me change this. That is something that's really bad for my body. And my body doesn't process that. But it is hard when you're just thrown into a world like that. That I can't imagine what that felt like. That had to have felt like a lot at all at once. So have you learned how to cook now?
Yes, a little bit better.
I love it. Do you get to cook stuff that you grew up on?
I try.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to cook?
I think it's a soup called zuppa toscana.
Oh, I had that one time. So good. So good. I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so when it comes to the community you're a part of, what has been the biggest help from them outside of just like spending time with you? What else have they done to help you?
Friendship.
Mm,
Being an adult that just cares about what I feel.
mm. Do they
What
treat
do you
you
think?
like a child or do they treat you like an adult?
They have never once treated me like a child.
So it's a true friendship and mentorship where they treat you like a human being and not like
Yeah.
don't talk down to you. I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing I'm hearing from a lot of former foster youth is that a lot of people that were surrounding them at certain periods of time, they felt like they were talking down to them as if they were a little kid and that they were in trouble. And that wasn't the intention, but that was how they read the situation. And they were like, I just want to be an adult with you. I want to be your friend. Lauren, what ways can we continue to help former foster youth across the globe without maybe we don't have a program, but how can we help?
That's a great question. I know there's a big need for guardian ad litems.
Mm,
That's kind of advocating for youth when they're still in the system.
mm-hmm.
So you can be like their one-on-one advocate, like in the court system, get to know their case and what needs they have, and advocate for their best interest.
Yeah. What
Um,
was the name of it again?
it's called guardian ad litem.
Okay, so other states might call it a CASA, like a court advocate.
Okay, yeah.
But
Mhm.
the other states, I've heard that name before, and I didn't know what it was. So, what do they do in the courts to help with foster youth?
So they would get paired with a foster youth, and then they kind of get to know their case. They get to know the child, the parent, like any adults involved, and then they assess the situation, hearing from the child, and figure out like what would be the best case scenario for the child.
Mm,
And then they advocate for them in court, and so their voice really
mm,
matters in court. And so
love that.
they kind of, in a way, kind of play detective of like
Yeah,
getting to know all the angles and stuff. But
love that.
I know that's a big need. I know there's a lot of churches, at least where we're at, that have foster care and adoption ministries.
I love
And
that.
so getting involved with those, just in general, like a lot of helping support foster families can help
Mm-hmm.
um, allow like really good parents to be able to like stay in that for the long
Yeah.
haul. And
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I
if you're
love
in
it.
Raleigh, come
Yeah.
hang out with us at Tamarind.
I love it. Linda, for you, what would you want to tell other people to how do you want them to get involved? If you could be like, I'm going to pick this for you, how would you tell them to get involved?
Hmm. I've mentorships
Mm,
has treated me very well.
yeah.
Like I asked a lady to become a mentor, and to this day, we're still mentee and mentor.
Mm, I love that. I think I've heard from a lot of former foster youth, it's really hard to tell people like, I'm looking for a mentor like this. How do you advocate for yourself with that? How do you say, this is what I need from you or what I'm looking for from you? How do you tell someone that as a mentee?
I think it's just a relationship.
Mm,
Like you just start getting to know them, like going to different groups, like in career fairs or just anything like that,
mm,
and just start developing a relationship, and then maybe asking like, "Do you think you can be my mentor on some stuff that could help me?"
I
Something like
love
that.
that. So I'm also I'm gonna guess these people are local to you then. They're not someone online or like far in another state. You're looking for people who are in your actual physical community. Is that right?
My mentor is actually in Georgia.
Okay. Did you start the relationship off in person or all like far away, like distance?
Distance.
Okay. So you just got to know each other. I love that though, because I think that's where a lot of us have looked for mentorships is for people who are kind of further away. It was someone we knew and liked and admired or thought we could learn something from them. And but you said like it's not just like you're my mentor. It's like you developed a relationship and then you asked.
Hmm.
That I think is a big deal. So what would advice would you both give to someone who may have had a hard time with mentorships? Like maybe the person started to be their mentor and then they pulled away. What advice could you guys give to that person?
I think something that we have seen is that it's really helpful to have more than just one person that you're able to go to,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because maybe that person isn't always available, or
Yeah.
maybe they go through busier seasons, and so having like a few different people that you are close to, have a relationship with, that you could call on,
Yeah.
can actually in the long run be more sustainable for both parties.
I like that a lot.
In the relationship with 5 different people, they
Mm,
give different advice and different reasons.
yeah.
Like they just give different things.
Perspectives. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes I call one of my friends, and then sometimes I call another one. Like it just depends.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's something I've kind of noticed is sometimes we get into a habit of making one person our everything for a mentor. Lauren, you said it really well. Like you're like, hey, like they might be in a different season, and Linda, you're like they offer different advice or different, parts of a relationship where it's like that might be my friend. This might be someone I had like, well, you're further ahead than I am. Let me ask
Mhm.
your advice. How do you take the advice you don't like? I mean, that one's always hard for me. How do both of you guys take advice that maybe your so a friend or a mentor gives and you're like, don't like it? How do you process that?
I think for me, if it's coming from like you said, a friend or a mentor, it's like I know that they're saying that out of love, like because they love
Mm,
me. And
yeah.
even if it's initially hard for me to hear, I might need to sit with it for a second, but then finally being like, okay, like they're saying this because they love me, and
Mm,
I need to probably listen to them.
true.
I have to ask around.
I do too. I'm like, but she said this. Like, how dare they? And then if 2 or 3 people say the same thing, they're like, wow. I'm like, ah. And I'm like, ugh. And then I got to a point where I didn't say, well, so and so said this. I would just say, what is your thought about this? And I'd ask 3 different people to get 3 different opinions. And then if 2 out of the 3 said the same thing, I'm like, well, I guess they're right. But it also helps when it's something that's not true, where I'm like, I feel this way about something. And I'm like, well, am I reading this correctly? Because sometimes I doubt myself and I doubt like my gut feeling. And I'll ask 3 different people I really trust and say, like, this is how I'm feeling about this. And if they say that's not how I'm reading it or I'm seeing it, I have to trust that they're not just telling me that they're not just arguing with me. They're actually like saying, hey, I see it very differently, because I get very emotional over situations, which is really hard because it's like sometimes I sit back, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. They're like, nothing's wrong. It's just it's a big feeling, you're in it, and that having those voices can help a lot with navigating that. Is there anything else you guys want to share about aging out, or how any other ideas that people can get involved with, or how we can follow you guys on your guys' journey to support you all?
Yeah, if you're on Instagram, we're Tamarisk.community on there. That's also our website.
I love it.
So,
Awesome. Linda, what about you?
I'm not sure what the question was.
Oh, how do you have anything else you'd like to share of like what ways we can get involved and help, how we can support you guys in the mission that you guys are doing over there, or help foster youth in general?
I just wish that everyone had something like Tamarisk,
Yeah.
because like there's so much support.
Mm.
And like these people, like they're like driving to my house for a whole hour and then picks me up and then takes me to Tamarisk event. Like
Mm.
this is a program that needs to be replicated.
Heck yeah. Like it's one that's very different than what I've heard from other places. It's just different. And when you even said the cooking thing, I was like, I didn't even think about like that, where just like open your house to like show people how to cook, because some of that stuff we didn't learn. I slowly taught myself, and it took me a long time to figure it out. But I'm like, why is this not good? why does this taste bad? It's like, well, you can't make this with that product. You have to have this. It's like, oh, okay. Well, great. But having someone show you and open their home or come to you and say like, hey, I'm here to pick you up to take you to this event, it makes you realize that they actually care for you, not just say, hey, come to my event, and then you don't come and they're like, well, I'm not going to talk to you. Like, that's not what is happening with your community. Your community is involved in like, hey, sometimes people need a ride, sometimes people need to know like what to buy at the store, and it's the life skills that we didn't learn. And like you said, we were just kind of thrown out there, and it was like, hey, have fun, go succeed. And you're like, cool. Because I felt that when I was aged out at 18, it was the same situation. And then I felt like I flopped for so long. Like I just kept like trying to figure it out. And now I'm being 35. Like I don't feel like my whole 20s was great, because I spent so much time flopping around and just being like, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying. And people have said like, oh, you should have just. And I'm like, but you don't see the holes in this. And I think this is a really good way when we are in the situation with people to see what they need and to meet them where they're at. And I think that's a beautiful way to support someone is, you said it, Linda, meet them where they're at, not where you want them to be, not where you think they need to be, but where they're actually at, and say, there's no dumb questions. There's no like, well, why didn't you know that? It's just like, hey, that's where you're at. Let's help you get to the next step, and not force you by like just pushing you off and being like, have fun, like really walking you through so that you can fly. All right.
Yeah.
This was really good. Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we end? I
And
love
so,
it. I'm so excited. We'll be posting this, you guys. If you have questions about what aging out looks like, you guys can leave them in the comments. If you have questions for the Tamarack community or for Linda or Lauren, you guys can reach out to them on Instagram. But support a community like this. So be a community like this. Replicate what they're doing. If you want to know how to do that, you guys can connect with the community and say like, hey, what can we do and how can we make this over here? You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys later.